Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to Soul Centered Navigation Talks. These are live talks to get us through when shit goes sideways. I want to thank everyone who's joining us live, and for those of you who are catching the replay, and actually it's all a replay right now because we're on Zoom today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Janine Tripodi, and I'm a Boston-born, Arizona-based speaker, author, and intuitive energetic healer. And I'm passionate about helping to teach women how to ditch external expectations and pressures and live more fulfilled lives by tapping into their inner wisdom and their connection with the universe and really learning to find joy within the chaos. My book, When Shit Goes Sideways, is my manifesto for soul-centered navigation for life. It's available on Amazon, and I share some stories of my life and around choosing joy in the midst of chaos. And we are in the midst of chaos right now during this chaotic time of COVID-19. We're into week 7 of quarantine. And I really wanted to help people find some footing during this time. And one of the ways I'm doing that are through these calls. And today I'm super excited to have Ashley Looft on my call today. Ashley is a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and she helps women find the root cause of hormonal, mood, and fertility issues and uses nutrition and lifestyle to bring them back into balance and optimal health. Ashley, welcome to the show or call.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so psyched you're here. So we met through a mutual friend of ours, Carrie Ann. She's awesome. She's one of my fave acupuncturists. And yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about all of this stuff that, that you're doing and how you're helping women. And I know that you're able to help people remotely right now. So before we jump into like the problems that you're seeing and things, can you just give us a little rundown of what you do and why you got started?
Yeah, so I focus mostly on women's hormonal health issues. Personally, I went years and years with issues, and I didn't even know it because I just wasn't even aware enough to know that there was something wrong. And so after years of being on hormonal birth control, I finally went off, but I just still had like really horrible periods and just didn't know what to do about it. And I saw so many doctors, and so many of them said, well, just back on the pill or get pregnant, which neither of those things worked for me because I was also struggling to get pregnant. So I was like, well, thanks. That is zero help. So through tons and tons of personal research, I stumbled upon that you could actually really help your hormones nutritionally and through natural means. And so I've been on probably a 4-year journey, and I have improved a ton of things, which is fabulous. I now have normal cycles. I ovulate every cycle. I do still experience some pain, but I'm working on that. And that's what inspired me to help women, was that I couldn't find answers. And then I finally found some answers, and I wanted to be able to share what I have learned.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I wish I knew you 17 years ago when I was struggling with infertility, and I had a lot of issues like that. And a lot of it was when I finally reached out to I did a combination of, medical aspects and very alternative aspects of health. And it was surprisingly, it just opened up a whole lot more. And I think there's not enough people know that there are a lot of options, and it doesn't necessarily need to be one thing or the other, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So as you're seeing your clients, we were talking earlier, what have you noticed? I find it really interesting as I talk to people on these calls, how our clients' needs have shifted since the quarantine or since, COVID-19. So what have you noticed in your clients? What are they coming to you for more?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I've noticed. So there's a lot of women are experiencing more cravings. So a lot more emotional eating and craving things, which is totally natural and normal because it is driven by our cortisol response. So when we're stressed, we release cortisol, and then that cortisol releases blood sugar into our system. And then as we run through our stored blood sugar, we no longer have any to release, but we're still stressed and our cortisol's still up. So then we crave more sugar to try and replace what we've used.
Oh, wow.
So it's totally, totally normal to want to eat sugary or carby things right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely something that I've been working with women on more.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because I don't like totally avoid carbs, but they don't make me feel great. They hurt my joints. I notice that like my finger joints and my knees hurt when I eat a lot of carb, a lot of gluten and a lot of eggs. But I have been craving nothing but like pretzels and crap food like Cheez-Its, and I don't normally eat that. And yes, I have it in my house.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I love how you described that. And I just took a note here so you can see like my eyes looking to the side, but that's awesome. How do you do your meal planning, and what are your tips for your clients?
Yeah. So one of the things that can help with times of cravings is to just make sure that we're eating enough every day. And so one of the things that I personally do is I give a loose meal plan. Um, I'm not one that I like to know, like on Monday I'm having this and on Tuesday I'm having this. Like that's way too much structure for me.
Yeah.
So if you feel that way too, that's totally okay. I usually generally say, okay, here's 4 meals that I want to have this week. I plan them on Friday and then I go grocery shopping on Saturday. And so then throughout the next week, as dinner comes up, then I say, okay, what do I feel like today?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever one sounds the most delicious is what I'll make. And I usually try to make 2 of them larger meals. So I cook extra. So that way we have leftovers for later in the week and we don't have to cook every night.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I've tried over the years. I've tried like very strategic meal planning for the week, and I'm good for a while. But I don't know Sunday what I want to eat on Friday, and so that either works so well, and I just feel like, okay, food is strictly for fuel, which is fine, and it is what the primary use of food is, right? It's to fuel our bodies, but I really want to enjoy it too. Um,
yes.
so yeah, I like that approach too, and not feeling like you're a failure one way or the other. I was telling
Mm-hmm.
you, my Carolyn, my friend who's a personal trainer, was talking a lot about that, and I talk a lot about that with my clients. And it sounds like you talk a lot about it with your clients. This idea of being gentle with yourself and being that sounds so corny, be gentle with yourself, but it's true, right? Like to give you, I think you
Mm-hmm.
said give yourself some grace when we were chatting earlier.
Yeah.
I really like that approach to living where you're not beating yourself up over the guilt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things that even on evenings when none of it sounds good, I always have the option of I can freeze things,
Mm-hmm.
and pull them out another week, and we can order in that night, especially right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Going out is not an option.
Yeah, I've noticed I've whipped out my food saver a lot. So I'll cook meals, and my kids are not big fans of leftovers. So I'll like food save stuff that I normally might have like watched rot in the fridge, which is not a good
Hmm.
approach because
Yeah.
I think one of the blessings that are coming out of quarantine for me is how really to utilize everything in my fridge and how to, to freeze it and reuse it. All that.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
How do you avoid reaching for all the, Cheez-Its and stuff like that?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. So one, I try to make sure that my meals are large enough that I'm not super hungry in between meals.
Mhm.
So that's a big thing that you can do. And then two, I just try to buy less of it or to buy better versions of things. So, I always try to keep like some dark chocolate because that's generally, that's not a bad thing to eat at all. And, that's one of the things that I usually crave, and which is good because chocolate contains magnesium. So, and magnesium helps us with stress. Yeah, so those are my usual go-tos.
Awesome. I'm going to put that in my instant cart, dark chocolate. You were telling me,
Yeah.
where do you shop? Actually, I want to know, where do you typically shop?
Yeah, so I actually shop most of my veggies from the farmer's market, which is really nice right now because it allows you to get outside and in the sunshine. It can be a little warm now in Arizona, but elsewhere in the country, if you are elsewhere, it's probably starting to get beautiful. So it's a good excuse to get out and in the sunshine, in the open air. It feels less scary than grocery stores can feel right now, especially because some of them have like restrictions on how you can move throughout the store.
Yeah.
So farmers markets are great. And then I also usually shop at Whole Foods or other health food stores. And that helps me to make sure that I'm choosing some better options for myself.
Yeah. Awesome. What is your biggest tip for your clients when they're calling in? And I mean, people are coming in, they have like those increased anxiety and stress levels. What is your, I don't know, give us a little go-to advice that you have for people. So anyone who's listening and kind of identifying with the stress that they're experiencing right now and recognizing, oh, it makes sense now why I'm craving sugars and things like that. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So, I mean, my biggest advice is to not restrict so much, to go ahead and allow yourself to have something if you're craving it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just make sure that throughout the day, you're also including plenty of veggies with your other meals, and that's enough to just to be healthy. Like you don't want to. We're not worried about taking out things. We just want to make sure that we're adding in things. So we're adding in more healthful options when we're eating our main meals.
When you plan your meal, do you do like, there's lots of different approaches where people are, you focus on the protein and then you add the veggies, or I'm a vegetarian, so I typically choose the veggies and then try to add protein for the kids or throw in some fish. I do eat fish, so I'm technically a pescatarian. But what's your approach when you're doing that? I know you cook for more than just you.
Yeah. So usually, my husband and he'll eat whatever I put on the table, which makes things really nice. And I'm lucky that way.
That's
He's not
awesome.
picky at all. I'm the picky one. So what I usually do is I just like to have a variety throughout my week. So I will go on Pinterest and just look through and go, oh, that looks good, or I haven't had that in a while, and just kind of plan that way. So I just kind of look for ideas on Pinterest or on Instagram and some of the people I follow that are food bloggers, and
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, and just go, okay, that sounds good, and I'll put that on the menu.
Awesome. So Ashley, what are some of the supplements? I know when you work with your clients one-on-one, you not only help them with the nutrition aspect, but you're also addressing other areas.
Yeah, so supplements are a big thing that I recommend, especially because these days we have monocropping, which means like farmers will only plant one crop, and this has depleted our soil of nutrients. So supplementing with different minerals and vitamins is really important. So for stress, some of the main supplements that I recommend are magnesium and B vitamins and zinc. These are all really depleted a lot by our stress, as well as vitamin D. So right now, as the weather is getting warmer, the best way to get vitamin D is to actually go outside and be in the sun for at least 15 minutes a day, unprotected, so no sunscreen.
Mm-hmm.
If you can last longer without getting burnt, you can definitely go ahead and be out longer, but you don't want to burn. So those of you that are fair skinned, make sure you are taking care of your skin. And some other supplements that I also love for stress is CBD.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I personally use a lot of. If you definitely should look into a full spectrum CBD, because we want not just the CBD, but there are other I can't say those words. Um, Cannabinoids, that's the word. There are other cannabinoids that are helpful to our body, as well as the tiny trace amounts of THC in the full spectrum is actually beneficial for us without making you feel high.
Okay.
So it's perfectly safe. Full hemp oil does have a minimal amount of THC that's good for you without being, illegal or any of those worries.
Okay.
So yeah. So some of the other things that I've also noticed is with stress, people will come to me and say, oh, I've missed my period, or, my PMS got really bad, what's going on? And stress is a key part of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Stress when you are stressed, again, we get that release of cortisol. And when you release cortisol, that sends a message to your brain that something bad is happening. And your brain goes, oh, well, I don't want to get pregnant now because I don't want to get pregnant in the middle of something scary. So then it downregulates your hormones. And so then your sex hormones aren't being released. So you might not ovulate. So then you miss your period. Or if you've already ovulated, then it downregulates your progesterone. So that way you can't carry a pregnancy. And that low progesterone is what causes our PMS symptoms. So any sort of anxiety you might feel prior to, irritability, depression, all of these things are related to low progesterone and can be caused by stress, as well as other things. So stress right now is probably the main culprit, but sometimes also things like gut health or
No, it's
gut health
awesome.
or blood sugar dysregulation. So which, coincides with stress, because when we're stressed, then we want to crave carby things, and then we eat too much carby and sugar things, and then our blood sugar gets all crazy whacked out. And so it's all connected, which is something that I've learned a lot of times. In our allopathic medical world, things are very separate. Like you go to this doctor for your gut, and you go to this doctor, the OBGYN, for your sex hormones and all this other things, but it's all connected. When one thing's off, everything else can real quickly go off. So it's just all interconnected, and we want to approach our body that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the whole mind body connection too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I did not know a lot of what you said, and I really feel like I dove into so many years of struggling with unexplained infertility and lots of issues with irregularity. I mean, from a real early age. Super interesting. I'm almost 50. So when I was a teenager, I had a doctor who just heard I had difficulties with my cycle and just threw me on the pill. I mean, I was probably in the pill for 20 years before more than that. No, 20 years. I don't know. It was a long time. And I'm not saying, I'm no doctor. It was a lot longer than I think I wanted to ever be on it, but interesting that I could have addressed it in different ways, but that was also a long time ago. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Have I missed anything? Is there anything that you wanted to chat about that I didn't ask about?
I think that we have talked about all the things.
I do want to say, because I'm going to ask you in a minute how people can find you, because this is such a fascinating conversation to have. And it's even more fascinating when people can understand how it really is specific to them. So when people get to work with you and really dive into their own individual plans and identifying what their individual needs are. How can people reach you? And I completely forgot my intro to the question. So this is like what I call quarantine brain. I'm like so hot on a particular thought, and then it like floats away. So forgive me. How can people find you?
Yeah, so they can find me, excuse me, on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is at Whole Healthy Happy Life. And right now I'm actually offering a free 30-minute consultation with a deep dive into looking at which systems of their body need the most support right now. So I have a long questionnaire that asks you about your different symptoms, and those symptoms can tell me which systems in your body, so digestion, adrenals, thyroid, that sort of thing, is all connected to specific symptoms. And so when you sign up for my free 30-minute consultation, you'll get that deep dive into what's going on, and we can take a look at what systems need the most support at this time.
That's so awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Ashley, thank you so much for calling and, for hanging with me in my quarantine brain. This was an awesome call, and I know a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.